Welcome to a study of the Gospel of John, Lesson 11, covering the pericope. Jesus heals a man born blind and spiritual blindness in general. This covers John 9:1 through 9:42. We had just studied last time, the attempt to stone him, and he went along. I'd like to concentrate on that phrase, went along, John 9:1. It is my distinct impression that that's the general tactics he used. He did not have a completely set agenda. He always had the fact that he would go to Jerusalem, suffer on a cross, die, all that. But other than that, he wandered around. And given the way the people were spread out, given the lack of any public communication, that probably was his best choice as a tactic. He would just wander along, depending on the Father to produce the people the Father wanted saved. All of the general teachings about salvation in the Gospels lead me to believe that he did that all the time, that there was no possibility he could reach everybody. But he could just go and let the Father put people that the Father wanted in the kingdom. That's not too bad a way for people in the present, friends. Just be on the alert. Be ready. The people that I have been able to reach with the gospel, I'd say more times than not, was just that. I wouldn't be thinking about anything specific like evangelizing, but God would put somebody there and let me know I was to witness the gospel to him. Then comes this pericope about the man born blind. I was just telling my recorder, that's my favorite pericope in John, because when he was left alone, just himself and the man born blind, everything went along all right. The man got healed. Jesus escaped the wrath of the Pharisees. But then the Pharisees stuck their long bony noses in it. They were going to investigate. I'm always suspicious of civilian groups that are going to investigate situations because they bring their prejudices in it. And this one, as he was going along, he just saw this man born blind. Now, don't ask me how he knew he was born blind. He was the Son of God. Don't ask me if someone told him that he was the Son of... I don't know. I'm going to stick with the way the pericope reads. Nobody knew who Jesus was. And until the Pharisees stuck their nose in the business, nobody much cared. But some Pharisee realized that This had happened on the Sabbath day, and therefore Jesus, carrying mud made from spit to heal the man, or having him carry his roll home, that was work, and it was not to be done. But he knew who he was. Even the man born blind didn't know who he was. The Pharisees didn't know who he was. As we proceed there, his apostles asked him who it was that had sinned. Was it the man or his parents? The old Job question, where people assume that if you have some horrible affliction, you have committed some horrible sin. Jesus never espoused that idea, even while he did not espouse the opposite of that either. It isn't that if you are faithful, you will get great reward. Your faithfulness isn't what's at question. It is the work of God. Miracles always, and I'm sticking my neck out by saying always, but I see no exceptions in the Bible or in my preaching and teaching life. Actually, miracles are to further the plan of God. It's not a miracle. It may be a spectacular event. It may be something that raises awe, but miracles mean God is furthering his cause. And this particularly in the case of especially heinous crimes. It does not mean that the one healed nor his parents had committed a great crime. It gave an opportunity for the plan of God to go further. The sin happened, summing up, to afford an opportunity for Jesus to display his healing power. The action was very simple, and Jesus made it simple. He spat on mud or clay, put it as a poultice on his eyes, and he could see. The same, we cannot heal people born blind directly, as Jesus did, simply by a word. But the simpler we can keep our life of evangelization, the less complicated. Now, that's a fine thing for a teacher that teaches at a high level to say. But I have found in teaching, you need to have a simple approach so that people can apply it to their own lives. And I try to use that principle in my Sunday morning class, and I try to use it in these classes. It is as the light of the world that he did this. He said, I am the light of the world, going back to his prologue. And I then suggested that the light of the world was the light that allowed the world to see the Father in heaven. Matthew has much the same thing when he says, do your alms, do your good works to the poor in such a way that God will get the blessing. God will get the praise. If you heal, if you teach, if you do anything you do for your benefit, or only for the benefit of the person you do it for, you are not doing it the way God wants you to. I think the greatest sin of Bible class teachers and preachers is they're seeking the reward. They're seeking to be big dog and small puddle. They just have missed the direction of their lives. As the light of the world, first Jesus and now we who proclaim the light of the world must take advantage of the light that Jesus provides. I understand the world much better as I study Jesus. He was not the idealist that the people seem to think that he did no evil, of course, but he did not use the teachings, tricks, and all kinds of rhetorical devices. He simply said, "This is the will of my Father. This is what my Father wants you to do." Would that we could have that single-mindedness to get people to do what the Father wants them to do. I would like to think, I do think, that at Oak Hills Church, we do a pretty good job of bringing the will of the Father. Now, I wouldn't want to back up and stand behind everything that Max or Randy or I or anyone else says from the pulpit at Oak Hills. But I would like to point out that we do a pretty good job of teaching the will of the Father, and there is nothing else to be taught. The healing itself caused some controversy. John always looked at the controversial aspect of what he did and said. Some recognized that he was the man who could now see, and he had once been born blind. Others said that the man only looked like that man. This past week, I was sure it was one of my class members on a television news broadcast. When I shared it with him, he said, no, that wasn't him. He wasn't even close to where that was taken. So, see, it's always easy to make mistakes. And don't have that cocksureness that the way I see it is the only way to see it. I don't make that statement. I make the statement that this is the best I can do in understanding and explicating the text for you. It's as simple as the gospel story. The gospel story is Christ died on the cross, was buried, raised from the dead, ascended to heaven. It's that simple. I tell the story, you believe it. Jesus told the story, his apostles believed it. And that's what is simple here. He healed the man, and the man was healed. The Pharisees investigate this healing. John 9:13-34. The healing had been done on the Sabbath, as the Pharisees were quick to notice. The man was cautious. He told only what had happened to him. Now that's what I would like to tell people doing evangelism today. Don't give the whole load at one time. Tell only what is relevant to the situation. God will take care of it. Our problem is we don't have enough faith in God. And I am talking about myself, because there was a time when I thought you had to have elaborate diagrams and elaborate rhetorical devices, and I even drew sermons on sheets and hung them up. You're about a colorful thing. It makes for color, but it hardly reaches the heart of the sinner. Why do you think Jesus did all those things? It was not just to have done them. It was as a healer of your soul and body. It was to bring salvation as it did to the tax collector. Salvation has come to your house. My heart leaps every time I see baptisms listed on the bulletin board before service. 4, 2, 5, 3, 0. It is not the number of baptism. It is the number of people who are accepting Christ. And notice the legality of the investigation. And by that I might say the not legality in the sense of being legal, but it was legality in the sense of trying to find this little legal fact in a reasoning. The man's parents were called as witnesses. They didn't know. The man, those who saw the man before and after were witnesses called by them. The healed man was witnessed. Only the verdict was illegal. Whose trial does that sound like? A paradigm of Jesus. Everything was legal, according to the law, Sanhedrin, all that. But Jesus was condemned illegally. The man, when Jesus heard that the man had been excommunicated from the synagogue, expelled from it, there was a man who was not guilty of anything except being healed. And the Pharisees excluded him from the synagogue. The Pharisees asked him, "Are you blind also?" Talking to people that were commenting on whether Jesus was the Messiah or not. The man himself believed in Jesus finally because he first saw him. First opportunity he had, he believed. The Pharisees involved asked, "Are we blind too?" Only to get the answer that since they had refused to believe in the works and words of Jesus, they were not blind, but sinners. Thank you. Have a good day.